So in the previous episode, we had a look at building this base, and despite having weight on it, it has bent a little bit. So I'm going to have to pop a little bit more weight on this after this particular uh, episode. But you can see all the plaster has dried now, and we've obviously got the front of the ship there with the bow wave, and the rear of the ship there with the start of an idea of a propeller wake, which we're going to build up with paint very shortly. So what I have done in the meantime is I have covered this entire board minus the wood bit in some gloss varnish, and that's to give it a little bit of a sealant to the plaster, because you've got to remember that this is going to be used for a war game, so it's not going to sit in a cabinet somewhere behind glass. It's going to get used, so it's going to need a little bit of protection, so that helps for that. And also the gloss varnish also gives a little bit of a sheen to the sea, and we're going to do the painting of the sea today, and it's going to be in a couple of three stages. And the first thing that we're going to do is going to get one of our big old fat £2 for eight big Tasda brushes, and this, which is miniature paints number 24 navy blue. And I've gone through this process in a couple of other videos, but I thought I would do it on this for completeness sake. So I'm going to paint this navy blue. I've always wanted to do one of those speedy up video things, so there we go. This is the first coat that's gone on. As you can see, it's quite translucent, but that's ideal for making the sea. And all the edges are painted, very, very nice. And all I'm going to do next is I'm just going to do a second coat of the blue paint, just to get the coverage a little bit thicker. And I'm not going to film that. I'll come back in a second and show you. So I'm back with the Bismarck base, and as you can see, a second coat's gone on, which is considerably darkened what we had before with that single coat. But there's still a little bit of translucence in there, just to give that real sea look that we are looking for with these ships. So I'm going to use this next, which is 70930 dark blue, and this is going to be my first layer of dry brushing on this particular base. So I'm just going to put some out onto my trusty old bit of MDF. There we go. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with the concept of dry brushing, and I'm using a battered old Pro Art. This is a Pro Art Sable, actually. Must be 10 years plus old, this brush. And I'm going to use that for my dry brushing. So it's just simply a case of getting a bit of a bit of paint even on the end of your brush, wiping off the majority of it, and then just dragging it gently over the top of the surface of the paint, of the base, just so that it picks up the highlights on it. And that's all you're really doing. It's nice and straightforward. You can even not really look at it while you're doing it. So I'm going to continue and do the rest of the base and come back and show you what it looks like in a few minutes. So here we are with the base, and I've done half of it in the with the dry brush, and the other half not so. And it's quite a subtle effect, so I'm not sure whether you can see 100% where we are with that. I think you can. One little tip is if you actually while you're dry brushing, you accidentally get too much paint on, as we've done there, just simply straight away rub it off with your finger or your thumb, and it will get a better effect. Because sometimes when you start dry brushing, you've got a little bit too much paint on your brush because you're not used to doing it, and you can get big blobs of colour where it doesn't look particularly good. So if you treat it and deal with it straight away, thumb, brush it off, jobs are good. So I'll get this finished and I'll come back to you in a minute. So the next stage is just simply to repeat that process, but with a slightly lighter colour. And this is 70904, and that is Vallejo model colour, dark blue grey, and one of my favourite colours. This I've used it on many things, according to scheme, my Kingdom of Jerusalem figures, and it's my second highlight for bases on ships. So exactly the same. This one gets a little bit looser. It needs a little bit of a shake up. And I'm going to use the same brush that I used for the darker blue. We're just trying to blend in stuff here. So once again, I'm getting, and I'll hold that up there so you can see it, getting a little bit on the end of our brush, wiping off the excess, and then we're going in fairly agriculturally, really, and just catching the top of the waves, trying to do it in a slightly different way to how I did the darker blue. So we're getting areas that have got this lighter blue on a little bit more than the darker blue we did a second ago. And then we've got there one of those patches I was talking about with a big bit of paint. So I'm just going to wipe that out off with my thumb, blend it in to all the other paintwork that's going on around it. And as you can see, that big block just disappears straight away. So you can kind of get the gist of what I'm doing. So I will crack on and finish this, and I'll be back in a minute. So that's the Bismarck base done with that dark blue grey second dry brush. And just to show you the difference in effect, here's one that has just got the darker blue on, and you can see there it's a subtle but very distinct difference between the two. And I'll move on now and do the next stage. And now we're on to the final stage of this part of the process of painting the base for the Bismarck. And I'm going to use this colour next, which is off-white. And that is 70820. To be fair, I've used ivory for this in the past as well. This just happens to be the bottle that's on the desk in front of me. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing with this, and let me make sure I've got the front of the ship in the right place. And I've changed the brush. It's still a knackered old Pro Art brush, but I've just changed the brush so I'm not going to get any blue leaking into the colour that I'm going to use. And you know, I've been painting for a long time, so I've got a lot of these dry brush brushes lying around. And again, this is an old Pro Art brush. It's an old Proline series, and again, it's really old. But you get, you know, I'd probably get 10 years worth of work out of some of these brushes. But apologies, did a massive sneeze there. So we're doing exactly the same as we did again, but on the previous ones. But this time, we're kind of going to do a concentrated line around where the actual model itself will sit. So I'm going to do that first, and I'm not knocking off as much paint as I normally would when I do dry brushing, because if you look at pictures of ships moving through the ocean, and then you're going to see that there is always foam down the side of the ships. Now, if this was a smaller ship, this would be the final process. But with these ships, I'm going to do a process at the end using a seafoam effect, but that's not going to go on until the ship model is attached to the base, because I want those wave effects to come up and onto the side of the ship as they would do in real life. So with this stuff, I'm concentrating on getting a reasonable amount of white on to the bow wave, and that's just so that the foam effect that I'm going to use to some extent there is going to sit better, and it's not going to, I'm not going to have to put loads on to get through to the blue. And then once I've done that, making sure that I've got a reasonable coverage around the areas that I'm going to use the foam, then I'm just going to lightly go over the top of the rest of the base, just to pick up the very tips of the waves that we can see. Again, it's a little bit too much there. And with a smaller ship, as I said, this would be the final look that I was going to use. But with these bigger ships, the seafoam goes on. So again, at the rear of the ship, we're going to have propeller wake, which is going to disturb the water quite considerably. There's some spectacular pictures of ships moving through the water. There's an amazing one of USS Tennessee literally splitting the water as it's going through it at high speed. So I think you can see that now, how that effect looks, and that's exactly what I'm looking for now. And I'm going to finish it off, as I say, later on with the foam effect, but that is the base done for now. So I'm going to have a quick look at the modelling side of things, and I'll see you in a minute. So here we are at the end of this third video that we've done, and apologies for shaky cam, I'm holding the tripod, but here is the completed model for the Bismarck, and I'm just going to run along the top of it so you get an idea of where we are with the sea base. Once that's got the foam on it, it'll be complete, but you can see the stage that I'm at, and lots of holes still in the deck and the superstructure for anti-aircraft guns, etc. And we'll be adding all those in later on. And I'm going to show you the process of how I build and paint this model as we go along. And in these little tubs here, we've got all pre-assembled bits and pieces, secondary guns, anti-aircraft guns, and then in the larger box I've got the ship's boats and some of the masts. So the next video I shall do will start the painting process for the ship itself, and I should be doing that in a couple of weeks' time. So thanks for watching part 3 of Build the Bismarck, and we'll see you soon. See you.